Hello everyone, it is I, Eric, and welcome back to the ErikDev channel. Now I know it's been a little bit, but I've been busy working on the game, but I wanted to get another video out that I feel like would be very useful for those that are trying to get into game development. So today we are going to go over scale and what that can mean for the game you're trying to make. So there are many definitions of scale, so I pulled it up right here. The definitions in particular that I mean when dealing with scale in game development. So the definition says, for scale, that it is a graduated range of values forming a standard system for measuring or grading something. And the other definition is the relative size or extent of something. Now, what I'm not talking about is if let's say, because I do a lot of pixel art, if a little sprite is too small or too big, but rather what I'm talking about that I've personally experienced on my journey for game development is if I am being overly ambitious with a particular mechanic in a game, or if my game has too many mechanics, and it's not just mechanics either. If I'm trying to make a lot of pixel art that is going way beyond the scale of the game, then I might not be optimizing my time in the best kind of way. So for example, originally with the space game, it is now called Cosmolon. I'm so proud of myself, I came up with a name. But with Cosmolon, you have a little spaceship, and it can move and all that stuff, and attack enemies and things like that, and you can level it up and all that jazz. But the thing that I originally wanted to do is I wanted to have the ability for the player to choose different ships, maybe a faster ship that has less health, or a slower ship that has more attack power or something like that. But as you can see right here, all of the nodes for this one ship, there's so many things I had to make for this one ship that it was just like, oh my goodness. And this is not even talking about the code for this one ship. And yes, here's some of the code as well. I'm gonna scroll through it real quick. A lot of this code can be copied probably when making another player character, but that was an initial idea that I had, but it was beyond the scale of the game. So then this begs the question, how do I know if what I'm trying to make is too ambitious or not? Especially if you're new to game development. So I have what I would call my initial thoughts on this. So since I'm new to game development, I will fully admit that I do not have like a perfect grasp of if something is too ambitious or not. And I'm probably going to learn more of that as I go along, as I learn more about coding and optimizing and making things more efficient and just the fun of it. But yes, so I don't have like a super expert answer to help manage this, but I have some thoughts that I have seen other people talk about that I think people can implement to help like rein in if they're being overly ambitious with the game that they're making. The first thing is to really like plan, and even if you don't plan like traditionally, just in your mind, really think about what is the core thing that you would like to make for your game. The core mechanic or the core art style, narrow it down to its most fundamental, like, I guess I'm making a square, but its core building block that you want to achieve. From there, it's important to be aware of the fact that if you're brand new to game development, and as I said in one of my other videos about, go check that out, should I make a game? What's important if you're new to game development is to make games and to learn, as I am, how to make them and how they work. Getting caught up on my first game has to be my dream game and that's it, the end, is not going to necessarily help. It could help with some people, but getting caught up on your dream game is not going to, especially if it takes you a while, is not going to help you learn how to make a game. And so keeping it like, okay, this is the core mechanic of this game. This is not my dream game. My dream game will come later. That will help you get the building blocks that you need. From there, and I can show a few things on screen about it, there are certain things that I would call shortcuts. Now, this is a touchy area because from what I have found in developing Cosmolon, there are certain things that you should not do a shortcut on. But if something is like really beyond your wheelhouse as you are learning, it's hard to differentiate what is considered necessary to, in some ways, to your game and the core principles, the core mechanics of your game, and what is something that you can kind of do without. So, for example, in Cosmolon, I knew how to make the player characters shoot projectiles, and then they will go off screen and everything's fine. What I didn't know how to do in Cosmolon is to have the enemy shoot projectiles in which those projectiles will also, like, once they hit you, they will then disappear. So as a shortcut, I made it where they don't disappear, and once the enemy projectile is shot, depending on which enemy shoots it, it will disappear after a few seconds or a couple of seconds. So knowing what is not necessary to the core mechanics and principles of your game can help rein in the scale. You can not hyper focus on parts of your game that are not necessary. You can kind of, especially starting out, you can be like, okay, in the future, maybe I will need to learn how to do this. But does it work? Is it, ask yourself, does it work? Does it hinder your current game? Is it still fun? Is it something you can accept? These things can help you determine if something is just needlessly complicated and you can let it go with a simple solution, or if these things are core to your game, then you will need to spend the time to solve them. They are within the scale of the game that you're trying to make. There are many games out there that have extremely large scale systems and things. I'm off the top of my head, I'm thinking like Baldur's Gate 3, Doom Eternal, these very big games, even games like Stardew Valley, have a lot of inner working mechanics, and a lot of these are actually more complicated than one might think. And I'll probably do another video about mechanics later, but just because you see these games and they have big core mechanics, large scale mechanics and things, does not mean that your game needs to do that. If you are trying to learn game development, starting off with something simple like a platformer, even if that is not your dream game, or just like, for me, it's like after this game, the next thing I want to try and figure out is how to have, it's not the core principles of the next game that I want to make, but I want to learn for myself how to have a game where you can save, just the concept of saving, and then have an inventory system, or something where like items and things that you pick can be saved as well. Those are a few things that I want to learn how to do, and they are going to be within the scale of me figuring them out. But like I'm not going to be trying to make the next BG3 yet. So to briefly recap, to help rein in scale from someone that's trying to figure it out for himself, the first thing is, I would say, come up with a simple game. That's probably a very good direction to go. Come up with a simple game that you would be interested in learning how to make. From there, don't overextend the mechanics of this simple game. If you're trying to make a platformer where you jump, but it's just becoming too difficult to implement double jumping, for example, then don't worry about that. Make the game with jumping if that is a core principle. And that leads to the third thing, which is from making a simple game as your overall mission, come up with the core mechanics and principles that these are fundamental to the game that I'm making. Don't make too many of these. Make them really tie into the core game itself, so you can focus on them. And then finally, and this is kind of like number 2, but if you find that as you're working on these core principles, you have to make select sacrifices for certain things. Maybe the art style is not perfect and it would take you way longer to make the game, then make those necessary sacrifices. All of this will tie back into, as I said, the previous video I made, where it'll just help you make a game rather than getting caught up in it. At the moment of recording this video, the game Cosmolon I've been working on since February, and I'm trying to wrap it up. But my goodness, there are times where, like, sometimes completely out of the blue, scale will show back up. So I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments. I'm Eric, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!